SUGU Video Study Guide is meant to be an assistive tool for pilots seeking to pass their advanced exam. This lesson will last approximately 1 hour, covering 8 modules. It will mention the necessary books and online links. Students who attempt to write their advanced exam are reminded to govern their time and prepare to skip and return to the questions they do not understand. Time management is crucial in this exam. If you are unaware of a question or its answer after searching through your study material or online reference links, use the process of elimination and do not guess. Although the exam is open book, we encourage students to understand the material thoroughly. The exam is 50 questions, and you are allotted 60 minutes to complete the exam. A minimum pass mark of 80% is required to pass, which will roughly allow you a maximum of 1 minute and 12 seconds per question. Take notes on questions you do not understand, as you cannot get more than 10 answers wrong. Sufficient time should be left at the end of the exam to review unanswered and uncertain questions. We recommend students to write their basic exam prior sitting through the advanced exam to familiarize themselves with the Transport Canada examination portal. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you for signing up to SUGU Drone Training's Advanced Exam Ground School. Our online modules are a tool which will provide you greater clarity for the knowledge requirements as referenced in Transport Canada's TP 15-263E. As we proceed through our course, I will ask that you utilize the Unmanned Booklet, Small Advanced Basic Handbook, Toronto VNC and VTA, ROC-A Study, and the Aeronautical Information Manual. In our course, we will discuss 1. Air Law, 2. RPAS Airframes, Powerplants, Propulsion and Systems, 3. Human Factors, 4. Meteorology, 5. Navigation, 6. Flight Operations, 7. Theory of Flight, and 8. Radiotelephony. All are weighed differently, and it is important to understand them thoroughly before you write your Transport Canada exam. The exam is meant to be open book, and you're free to use reference material. Nevertheless, let's begin. I am excited to dive into our modules. The first subject is Drone Air Law. In this module, we will discuss applicable study references, helpful exam tips, certification requirements, advanced operations, and definitions and key terms. An expanded version of this text is available in the link description with over 350 slides covering all 8 modules, which are uniquely searchable. In addition to this, our Ground School Kit is available for purchase and includes all the necessary books and also comes with a hardcover RPAS pilot logbook and our school's flight bag. Visit www.sugutools.com or the links in our description to obtain your RPAS Ground School Kit. We have created a flowchart which will help guide you. When studying for air law, referencing the Transport Canada Part 9 regulations is definitely a must. Students should read through the regulations in their standard form at least once before proceeding to SUGU's plain English form of the regulation. Our plain English translation of the regs will help remove any ambiguousness. Another great reference link is the Aeronautical Information Manual, which is an additional source to obtain aviation-related terms. Lastly, it is also great to reference the full set of Canadian aviation regulations and standards if there are any doubts or uncertainties on the exam regarding which would otherwise not be in the Part 9 regulation. Some helpful examination tips include knowing the Part 9 air regulations, knowing when an SFOC is required, knowing the 3 operational drone categories, understanding RPAS altitudes, when to report aviation incidents, rules governing advanced operations, general terms, and what happens in flight reviews. To become an RPAS certified pilot, there are three notable steps. First, you have to be at a minimum of 16 years of age, have passed an advanced exam with a minimum pass mark of 80%, and successfully passed the in-person flight review. In addition to this, there are ongoing recency requirements which are required every 2 years. In further defining and classifying the regs, our instructors have come up with a fabulous table. In the Advanced Operations category, pilots must ensure if they are operating near the vicinity of control airports within 5.6 kilometers, that they have the applicable safety assurance and follow the procedures as set out by the operator, or if they are operating within the vicinity of restricted airspace, and check the designated airspace handbook for further details. In regards to heliports, if you're operating within 1.9 kilometers of a heliport, the applicable RPAS safety assurance is required. One thing to notate about the Advanced Operations category is that there is a specified weight condition of 250 grams, 25 kilograms. There are three types of safety-assured drones operations in controlled airspace. Operations at a distance of less than 30 meters, but no less than 5 meters, near people, and operations at a distance of less than 5 meters, above people. Knowing these categories are very important. All categories not reflectant of basic and advanced operations, an SFOC is required. Here we have it. Here are definitions you should have as quick reference during the exam. Remotely pilot aircraft is definitely a must-know. Command and control link, control station, first-person view device, and flight termination system. Understand the role of the visual observer and in relation to your flight. We have grouped VLOS and VFR, as well as BVLOS and IFR, to provide a compare and contrast the definitions. Furthermore, VFR weather minimums should be understood, CAR 602, as well as CAR 901.34, which states, no pilot shall operate a remotely piloted aircraft system unless the weather allows the flight to be conducted in visual line of sight or in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions, is an important notation for RPAS flight operations. Candidates attempting to write the exam should have a basic understanding prior to writing the exam. Thus, the links we recommend students to have open during the exam for air law include SUGU's Ground School PowerPoint, the Part 9 Air Regulations, and the Aeronautical Information Manual. If all else fails, Google is a great backup resource. We recommend students to cover their material thoroughly prior to writing the Transport Canada exam. A deep focus should be placed on understanding the material, as opposed to simply learning how to pass. End of module checkpoint. There are 3 questions, and 2 minutes to answer all 3 questions. Great job in answering the mock questions. Our next module is RPAS Airframes, Powerplants, Propulsion, and Systems. RPAS Airframes, Powerplants, Propulsion, and Systems is a very important section in regards to understanding parts of an RPAS. Things to notate while studying through this section include altimeter errors and the effect of mountains and valleys in altimeter readings. This is further elaborated in section 1.5. Furthermore, operators should understand the usage of illegal payloads as referenced in 901.22 and 901.42. In going down our study reference areas, you should also understand how to convert from milliamp hours to watt hours, as well as the rules over traveling with batteries. I have found a fabulous link on CATSA's website which explains your battery limitations. In addition to this, you should understand the protocols of the transportation of dangerous goods, which can often require special handling protocols. In overviewing what needs to be known for the exam, it is important that you understand aircraft parts and components of an RPAS. If you don't, we offer a great pictogram on both fixed and helicopter components. Furthermore, we provide additional information in our extended ground school PowerPoint. It is important to know propellers and rotors, and what causes an RPAS to climb, descend, or turn. This goes hand in hand with multi-rotor aircraft dynamics. It is important that you know helicopter flight controls, which include the cyclic and the collective. Additional notable knowledge areas include the definition of a payload, the difference between brushless versus brush, sources of RF interference, load factors, the effects of ice on an aerofoil and how it decreases lift and increases drag, as well as altimeter calibration and errors. Here we have it. The following are components of a fixed-wing aircraft. It should also be understood that the servos are generally responsible for moving controlled surface areas such as the elevator, ailerons, or flaps. In this example, we have an RC helicopter. You should understand that the small tail rotor counters the torque from the main rotor. In addition to this, it should be understood that the cyclic controls airspeed and altitude, while the collective controls the aircraft rotor pitch. In discussing multi-rotor flight dynamics, all movement is done by adjusting the thrust produced of the rotors, whether independently or together. Pitching and rolling is done by adding thrust to one rotor and decreasing thrust in the opposite rotor. In this case, to pitch backward, the forward rotor would increase thrust, and the rear rotor would decrease thrust. In discussing brushed versus brushless, one of the main disadvantages of brushed motors include that it creates friction and sparks. This can overheat the device. Furthermore, brushless motors are lighter. Module checkpoint. 2 questions. 1 minute 20 seconds to answer. Great job in answering the mock questions. Our next module is human factors. On to human factors. This is a particular area of the exam most students have a lot of difficulty with. What you should do to prepare for this section is read through the applicable reference links and refer to our slideshow. You should also utilize the TP 14112, which references the effects of red light on your night vision. Another useful reference link is the Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety on Understanding Employees' Rights. In short, employees have a right to know, participate, and refuse work. I have included two references for the Aeronautical Information Manual and the Transport Canada Human Factors booklet. These links are useful if you're struggling to obtain information for Human Factors section. I would like to advise both these books are available for purchase on our website or in our link description if you would like a hard copy. If you would like an electronic copy of the Aeronautical Information Manual, it is free for you to access on the Transport Canada website. Some helpful tips include obtaining the Human Factors booklet, as there are various questions on the exam referenced from this book. Lastly, utilizing CARS 901.19 and the Aeronautical Information Manual Section 3.8 on fatigue will be very useful in your studies. Examination checkpoint. How long do you have to wait after consuming alcohol to act as a pilot in command of an RPAS? I forgot to add, if you're looking for the answers from our examination checkpoints, please visit our answer key link located in our description. Meteorology. We are finally at meteorology. From the standpoint of all the Transport Canada topics, this is my favorite. Seriously. One of the things I pay attention to is our weather heuristics and how the observed weather phenomena will affect my potential flight activities during the day. Some weather heuristics you are probably familiar with include 1. Red sky and night sailor's delight. Red sky in the morning, sailor's warning. This means if the sky is red at night, the next day will be beautiful. Adversely, if the sky is red in the morning, adverse weather conditions can be predicted. 2. Others include buoy Ballard's law or gust fronts ahead of impeding storms. Let me tell you folks, knowing these items aid in great pilot decision making. On to the examination overview. All these topics are fair game. What is important? That you know what type of service flight information centers versus air traffic services. In discussing NAV Canada Aviation Services, here's a phenomenal image of NAV Canada's main page. It will be beneficial if you know and learn all the items in red. Items such as METARs, issued every hour on the hour. TAVs, issued 4 times daily, or GFAs, which cover 7 regions, should be knowledge points committed to memory. You should understand how to read windsock. Nevertheless, all this is covered in detail with our ground school slides. Examination checkpoint. You have 2 minutes to answer 3 questions. What is the ICAO adiabatic lapse rate? What is the most important element from the standpoint of weather? How many times are METARs issued? Navigation. In the navigation section, there are 5 questions. In overviewing what to study, you should focus your attention on navigation definitions, the differences between variation and deviation, maps reading, pre-flight planning and NOTAMs, DGPS and errors. Basically, what latitudes are they more pronounced at? General GNSS and GPS knowledge. An example is the types of satellites, Galileo, Beidou. Lastly, you should understand how to read a CFS. This is a reminder at the end of each module that there is a small quiz to help you focus your attention. In reviewing our study references, here are the applicable links to help you with studying. The first is understanding your Canadian Flight Supplement. You should have knowledge of identification, elevation, who is an operator, and where to obtain frequencies. Furthermore, telling the difference between an aerodrome and airport is something you should understand. The key distinction is that airports are essentially certified. Additional details can be found in our slideshow. On to other study items. You should understand aviation maps and map reading, along with their scales and symbols. Key distinction is that VNC has a scale of 1 to 500,000, while VTA has a scale of 1 to 250,000. Study material can be found in the AIM map section or the SUGU slides. In addition, it is important to know the following: NOTAMs, radio navigation theory, navigation errors, UTC to local time conversion, and sources of RF interference. I have left references on the screen to assist you with finding the material. So here we have it, an overview of what VTA is. It provides information for areas with congested traffic and covers a much smaller area. The VFR navigational chart provides a much larger scale at 1 to 500,000. But in terms of real-world use, I can advise these maps are only for airspace identification, not for obstacle avoidance. In moving on to other key study areas, understand time and longitude. Day and night, the true definition. Know what the purpose of a CFS is. And how to read it. As well as factors as understanding GPS. So we are now at our examination checkpoint. What is day defined as? What information does the CFS provide? How many satellites do you need for a 3D position fix? Flight operations. We are now at flight operations. This section has 7 questions. In preparation for your study, know the following: runway numbering and orientation, VFR entry procedures at uncontrolled aerodromes, and general flight patterns, how ice will impact an aircraft flight performance, how and when to report information to Transport Canada or the Transportation Safety Board, i.e. incidents and accidents, the effects of density altitude multi-rotor performance, the usage of bungees and cords and their stretching capabilities. Furthermore, you should have a good understanding of aerodromes and airports in terms of these operational procedures. Here we have a picture of ice on an aerofoil. Ice increases drag and decreases lift. This information is critical in a real-world application. Lastly, you should have a deep understanding of aircraft traffic patterns and runway number. This is actually covered in our flight operations section in our ground school slides. If you don't understand, you can Google it for clarification or check out our slides. References have been attached in common study areas. Have the Part 9 regulations open during the exam and have our plain English text accompanying it. Our next section is Theory of Flight, but before we proceed, we have an examination checkpoint. You have 1 minute to answer. How does ice impact lift on multi-rotor aircraft? We are now at Theory of Flight. This section has 4 questions. In regards to studying, focus should be placed on the following. Bernoulli's principle. This information can be found in our slides or Google. In regards to other study areas, you should have an understanding of stability and C of G, equilibrium, aircraft stability, and the effect of certain wings on performance and stability. This information can be looked up in the Unmanned booklet, SUGU slides, or Google. It's also important to know flight controls and the effect of what happens when deployed, such as slats, flaps, spoilers, and trim. Lastly, focus should be placed on lift in regard to understanding lift and/or drag, laminar flow, stalls, and the movement of the center pressure. Here we have it. The next few slides have pictographic on what to reference. As mentioned, it is important to understand what angle of attack is. How the center of pressure moves when aircraft is about to stall. Basically, it moves forward up to the stalling angle. Beyond stall angle, center of pressure moves aft. The forces in flight and how lift is produced, as well as the cross-section of the airfoil and terminology. Knowledge exam checkpoint. You have 1 minute to answer. What happens to the center of pressure at the point of stall? Our last module is radio telephony. This section has 4 questions. For this particular knowledge area, you want to ensure you reference our slides, the Industry Canada Radio Study Guide, and the Aeronautical Information Manual. Key areas to focus on include definitions and terminology, your phonetic alphabet, who are aircraft call signs issued by, numbers, dates, altitudes, standard phraseology, basic radio communication, and legal considerations. Everything listed has applicable references. In moving on, here are some reference slides. Please take a second to pause if you would like to look it over. Here we begin. You should understand the definition of frequency. You should also understand phonetics. What we find that helps with this is trying to spell your name or family member's name in phonetics. You can adversely try spelling Canada, Charlie, Alpha, November, Alpha, Delta, Alpha. It is important to understand the pronunciation of numbers. For instance, 16,000 is pronounced 16,000. You should also understand the importance of strength and readability. Examination checkpoint. You have 1 minute to answer. If you have excellent signal strength and perfect readability, what would you say during a radio check? In moving on, we see that many students have issues with the top 4 study areas. One of the recommendations we have is to ensure you have the relevant study material. Google is a great resource, but you should also understand your material and what you're reading. Thus, having dedicated books is the way to go. All these books are available for purchase in our links located below or via www.sugutools.com. Remember, when you complete your exam, you still have to go through the flight review, so it is good practice to commit things to memory. Now on to what our instructors have to say.
Thank you for the handover. The Small Advanced Exam is a certification which will require focused reading and cognition of subjects. Due to the time limit of 60 minutes, effort should be placed in studying, reading, and the indexing of notes prior to writing this exam. As some of the wording is considered tricky, students are reminded to read over their questions along with answers to ensure they have chosen the most correct answer. Many questions will have similar answers, but you must use the process of elimination to obtain the most accurate result. If there is a question that comes up that you do not understand, make sure you hit Tab Control Find Search key. Google is an available resource, but it should be used as your last resort. In recapping our modules, students should use the following links to help with their study of each of the Transport Canada examination sections. Students have the alternative of just using the links, but we strongly recommend also utilizing our ground school slides. Lastly, our ground school kit includes all of the required reference books, which is available for purchase on sugutools.com. If you seek to study without the hardcover books, simply utilize all the links within the online reference column. Studying without the books is extremely difficult. Students who choose this option should be prepared to put the extra time into studying for the duration of their examination preparation. Furthermore, as our syllabus is referenced from the TP 15263, students can also choose to refer to Transport Canada's syllabus page. In further summarizing our modules, the exam has 8 sections, which include Air Law, RPAS, Airframes and Systems, Human Factors, Meteorology, Navigation, Flight Operations, Theories of Flight, and Radiotelephony. For Air Law, the General Aviation Regulations, which include CARS Part 1, 3, and 4, need to be studied. In regards to the Part 9 regulations, the following should be studied. We recommend students to read over our plain English version of our CARS, available in our link description for study guidance. In regards to knowing the following, it is good to know when an SFOC is required, when you should report an accident to the Transportation Safety Board, as well as general air traffic services and procedures. All links are provided for you to review. In contrasting RPAS proximity to people and altitudes, a few short explainer videos have been put together to further assist you during your studies. Subject to paragraph 901.69, 1, B, or C. No pilot shall operate a remotely piloted aircraft at a distance of less than 100 feet, 30 meters, from another person, measured horizontally, and at any altitude, except from a crew member or other person involved in the operation. So, what do you think this means? First, let's define people. They can be crew, others, and participants who have been briefed. Pilot in command, check. Visual observers, check. Models, check, check. Actors and technical crew, check. People that are not crew or others not participating in the operation are not allowed, or subject to paragraph 901.69, depending on your manufacturer's safety assurance. Near or above people, it is possible. Now, let's take a deeper look. Crew, no limitations. Not crew, not less than 100 feet or 30 meters measured horizontally. What the 901.69 regulation says is that the not less than 100 feet regulation applies when the RPAS manufacturer declares that it meets certain document requirements and technical requirements as set in the standard 922. To elaborate, crew have no limitations. Not crew, not less than 16.4 feet for Category B. To expand, an RPAS pilot may operate his drone not less than 16.4 feet for Category B, or less than 16.4 feet for Category C, based on manufacturer's safety assurance. In regards to Category A, it is for controlled airspace operations. In discussing RPAS altitudes, here we have it. You are in a rural area in uncontrolled airspace. There are trees nearby standing 50 feet high. What is the maximum legal altitude for an advanced RPAS pilot? The answer is 400 feet. You are in an urban area in uncontrolled airspace. There are buildings nearby standing 450 feet high. What is the maximum certified altitude for an RPAS pilot? The answer is 550 feet AGL. In elaborating, 901.25, 1 states that subject to subsection 2, no pilot shall operate a remotely piloted aircraft at an altitude greater than A, 400 feet, 122 meters AGL, or B, 100 feet, 30 meters above any building or structure if the aircraft is being operated at a distance of less than 200 feet, 61 meters, measured horizontally from the building or structure. 2. A pilot may operate a remotely piloted aircraft at an altitude greater than those set out in subsection 1 if the operation is conducted in accordance with a Special Flight Operations Certificate, RPAS issued under section 903.03. Our next study area is RPAS airframes and systems. This section has 5 questions. A focus should be applied to understanding aircraft parts and components, purpose of aircraft parts, i.e. slots, collective, cyclic, servos, payload, catapults, and bungee cables. Students should understand multi-rotor aircraft dynamics, propellers and speed, fixed and variable pitch, and its relation to quadcopter movement, the tail rotor of a helicopter and its purpose, altimeters, calibration, temperature, errors, effects of flying near mountains and valleys, measurement, the effects of ice formation on an airfoil, sources of RF interference and phone interference, planetary K indexes, and what an abnormally high K index will do. I've compiled all the areas where you can reference the material on the right column. Please visit our link description below to be directed to our ground school slides. The next learning area is human factors. There are 8 questions in the human factors on the exam. References have been provided to direct your focus when studying. A great deal of questions have been pulled from the Human Factors Basic Handbook, as well as Aeronautical Information Manual referenced in the next slide. Feel free to pause the video to read over items that you think you need to reference in detail. Please reference the following human factors sections when studying. In regards to the utilization of the Aeronautical Information Manual, the Airmanship section of the AIM should be focused in specific sections 3.2.1 all the way to section 3.12.1. Would like to note the questions on blood donation and anesthetics come up seldomly. The next learning area to review is meteorology. There are 7 questions on the exam. Areas to review include density altitude, types of precipitation and fog types, NAV Canada weather products, flight information centers, ATIS, AWOS, and air traffic services. Lastly, a focus should be placed on weather, fronts, the effect of precipitation during flight, as well as wind and temperature considerations. As mentioned previously, all the applicable study areas are located on the right. I would like to note a list of NAV Canada weather products, including METARs, TAFs, and GFAS, are found on our slides and can be found in the following NAV Canada web link. The next learning area to review is navigation. There are 5 questions on the exam. The provided links and knowledge areas should be studied in its entirety. In referencing navigation, a common problem is runway numbering and orientation, so let's review the following example. An aircraft radios the tower and indicates he is on a right-hand downwind for runway 9. Where is the aircraft in relation to the aerodrome? North, south, east, west? Now, let's draw in the circuit pattern to better visualize our runways. We will take the approach in this case that this runway has right-hand circuits. Understanding these factors, what is the aircraft's approximate heading? So, let me draw in the downwind leg our aircraft is flying along. An aircraft is said to be right downwind. When the aircraft is on the downwind leg, the aircraft is to the right side of the aerodrome. We know that runways are numbered according to their heading, roughly speaking. So 9 would have a rough heading of 90 degrees, and anywhere between 90 and 99 degrees. Runway 13 would have a rough heading of 130 degrees. The reciprocal of 90 degrees is 180 degrees. So the aircraft is south of the aerodrome on a rough heading of 180 degrees. Great, we have reviewed navigation. The next knowledge area is flight operations. In recapping and summarizing study areas, the following sections should be studied in order to ensure your success. Please take the opportunity to pause the slideshow to ensure you have everything covered and written down. This is a reminder, our ground school slides are available in our link description. The next knowledge area is theory of flight. There are 4 questions on the exam. Students should ensure they understand the concepts as it relates to aircraft parts and components, Bernoulli's principle, the effects of lift, stalls and movement of the center of pressure and equilibrium. Links have been provided to direct the focus of your studying. To make sure you understand the basic concepts of theory of flight, I prepared a short review video. Theory of flight. There are 4 forces acting on an airplane in flight. Thrust, which is the force exerted by the engine and propeller, which pulls or pushes the airplane forward. Then we have drag, which is the resistance to forward motion and is directly opposite to thrust. Lift is an upward force, which sustains the aircraft in flight. Weight is a downward force due to gravity. Weight is directly opposite to lift. When thrust and drag are equal and opposite, the airplane is said to be in equilibrium. When lift and weight are equal and opposite, the aircraft is in equilibrium. The 4 forces are balanced during maneuvers and steady flight. The above video is not the complete set of what you have to know, but provides a basic overview. Students must ensure they review our slideshow and provided links to ensure success. As a final note, material is referenced from the TP 15263. The next section is radiotelephony. Students must ensure they review the provided links. Again, please feel free to pause as I go through our final slides. The reference links include the ROC, a study guide, the AIM, NAV Canada, the SUGU slides, and the Part 9 regulations. Special importance needs to be focused on radial finds, phonetics, pronunciation of numbers and dates, and who issues RPAS call signs. Thank you for reviewing the advanced examination modules with me. In closing, please watch the following tips on how to pass.
Thank you for watching our advanced examination module. This is a reminder, if you require our slides or ground school kit, it is accessible by visiting our link description below or visiting www.sugutools.com in the pilot and aviation supplies. We suggest obtaining or purchasing our slides at minimum. Nevertheless, here are the steps to pass the advanced exam. Before the exam, make sure to read the Part 9 regulations, review provided reference links, obtain our ground school kit or necessary books, which is recommended, utilize the SUGU slides to learn exam knowledge areas, and know the definitions and acronyms. During the exam, choose the best possible answer. If you don't know the answer, skip and come back later. Complete the answers based on what you know first. Create 2 lists on scrap paper labeled uncertain and don't know. Read over your answers at the end of the exam and answer every question. Stuck? Put exam answers instead of questions in Google search. Try using multiple computer monitors. Use the full examination time to your advantage and leave enough time to review your answers and imagine success. For more information on our ground school courses, visit www.sugudrones.com and select your applicable training date and course. As a bonus, I have included a free practice examination in our link description. Please take the time to try it, and your results will be provided automatically at the end of the examination. Thank you for watching.
SUGU, a safer future with technology.
Be sure to like and subscribe.